Now, our second segment is one that is close to every Singaporean's heart. Just 3 letters, CPF. Now, a recent study which had found that those in Singapore aged 65 and up would need at least $1,375 a month to achieve a basic standard of living is useful for personal goal setting and retirement planning. However, the methodology used by its researchers is fundamentally different from the government's method of arriving at payout sums under the Central Provident Fund or CPF, said MOM. Now that said, is there a benchmark to how much one should ideally have for a comfortable retirement? Is it easy to come to a standard benchmark of retirement adequacy? What can one do to prepare for retirement? Now, to tell us more, I have Yuen Sin with me right here. Welcome, Yuen Sin.
Hello, hi.
Yuen Sin, of course, you are a familiar face right here for TBS. Now, Yuen Sin, first of all, let's talk about the genesis of this whole issue. Now, why did the discussion on retirement adequacy surface?
Yeah, so this whole conversation started with the release of a study by a team of Singaporean researchers. They have a lot of experience in social policy. So this study was released in May, and it used an established method known as the minimum income standards to establish how much an elderly person aged 65 and above will need for retirement. Not just retirement, but just, from 65 onwards, how much you need to have a basic standard of living. And the definition of, this basic standard of living goes beyond just merely survival. So it's not enough to just, have housing, have food. I mean, that is just, merely survival. But, are you feeling fulfilled? Do you have a sense of dignity in your old age? So these are all questions that I think they tried to tackle. And how they did this was that they kind of rounded up a very diverse group of over 100 participants who are all elderly people and across income spectrums. So they came together in focus groups to talk about what they think they needed in their own old age. So I think this whole process is a very collaborative process, and they made sure that there was consensus among all the participants. So everyone had to agree. If there was one person who said, oh no, I don't think we need, for instance, a standing fan in the room or air conditioning, then it would have to go to another round where they then deliberate. So they came to a conclusion that you need $1,379 for a month, and this factored housing, by assuming that one is in good health, so it doesn't look at healthcare costs. It also factors in money that you need for social activities, so to meet up with friends at a restaurant, right? Because I mean, you can say that you don't need to spend that money, it's extravagant. But can you imagine just sitting around in your home, watching TV?
And this standard is also used in other countries.
So I think Japan, Ireland, so and I think it started in the UK as well.
Right. So has there ever been, a similar benchmark for retirement in Singapore? If there is, why? Or if there isn't, why not?
Yeah. So I think so far there has not been a flat figure like this that has been released, which is precisely why it sparked such, debate, right? Like, is 1379 enough or not? So I think the government has kind of traditionally shied away from having an easy to understand figure. And I think that for the average Singaporean like you and me, right? Having a clear figure like that.
It makes it easier and it makes it real, right, for us to understand a certain
kind of calculate our savings, we can kind of project things into the future. So I suspect that it could be politically difficult for the government to commit to a figure. So on one hand, right, if you say that, okay, we all need 1379 to survive
and be comfortable and all that,
people may say, okay, so what about all those people who fall below this? What are we doing about them? Secondly, there could be groups also who also say that, okay, you will say that this is enough, but what if they,
feel that they want more,
or like they age and they find out that it's not enough, so they could point fingers at the government, so it could be difficult for them to commit to this figure. But what we have in Singapore is definitely that we have many different schemes beside the CPF to ensure that everyone has enough for retirement adequacy according to the government.
But
of course, like on the ground, sentiments differ lah. So maybe this is where this debate is going right now.
So is there a midpoint then, a balance where the differences can be reconciled? Like you mentioned, on one hand, some people would want this, on the other hand, the government hasn't quite come out with it. So is there a midpoint?
Yeah, there's been a bit of discussion back and forth, and I think, why we are talking about this now is because the government has recently responded to the results of this study, right? I think both sides kind of talk over each other.
Right.
They have different philosophical standpoints on this, so I can't say which one is right.
Yeah.
So from the point of view of the researchers, they employ a qualitative method, which is also rigorous, and I think what they're trying to do is to, be more aspirational. So instead of just looking at what we have now, they're asking, can we have more, or can we think of a way in which we can ensure that those who are vulnerable in society may be able to have access to more forms of social participation. I think whereas the government takes a more pragmatic approach. So the way they calculate the CPF sums, they look at the household expenditure survey. So they prefer to look at it more quantitatively, and they look at spending patterns from the past. And then from then they determine what is enough, and they would say that, okay, if you, and they expect people to be self-reliant. So they expect majority of people to work and save money in their CPF, and if that is not enough, then there would be government schemes to step in
help
and
them,
help.
So, with that, Yuen Sin, where do we go from here, right? What can we do to prepare adequately for retirement then?
I guess now that at least there has been this number that has been issued, maybe it's a good time for everyone to take stock and talk to, their parents, family, and think about what they need for themselves in the future, right? So, and I think more can be done to enhance the financial literacy of Singaporeans, because even the CPF system is very difficult to understand, even for the well-educated, right? So I think there needs to be a bit more engagement on that front, and also maybe to kind of like improve the understanding of retirement adequacy in Singapore. The government may, it may help all of us if the government does release a bit more data. So, because we know about CPF, but not everyone is on CPF.
Correct.
So if you can have data that looks at all income sources, so let's say your salary, social support, investment income, and money that you get from friends and family, and then you can see across the whole population how many people still do not have enough to meet their needs in retirement, then that may help to kind of like move the conversation forward a little bit.
Right. So definitely financial literacy is very important, so that people kind of understand, what are the schemes involved and what is this whole CPF is all about. Of course, we have a basic understanding of it, but really to go down to the nitty-gritty details of it, I think that is where, some kind of awareness or education would help.
And it will address some of the anxieties that we have, because when you're unsure, you will definitely worry for the future.
Exactly. Once again, thank you, Yuen Sin, for coming on to the show to talk about this. Again, for those of you who are watching us at home or wherever you are, if you want to read more on CPF related stories, do head on to our website at www.straitstimes.com.